Hello there, people of the internet. Welcome to another episode of Political Headache. It is a special episode. I am joined in studio by...
Oh, I was needing incidental. Kasmuel McOure. I was needing incidental music because you said it's a special episode.
It is a special episode.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk to you about yourself.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Let us go.
So, Kasmuel,
Yeah.
the myth. The myth. There's obviously so many things that come with being yourself.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest questions that has been on my mind has been between 2024 and you being thrown into this space where you came into the limelight in front of a political movement that nobody was anticipating. Nobody created it. It just happened because the government was being shenanigans.
Yeah. Shenanigans is a nice word.
It is.
It's long. It's nice. I wanted to say it out loud. It's very nice.
And you get into this arena, you're thrust into it.
Yeah.
And there's so much discussion about who you are.
Yeah.
There's a very nice photo of you that makes rounds with freedom.
Yeah.
And it becomes emblematic of the movement.
Yeah.
We're like, this is what this is about. And you become a representative, a spokesperson, a leader of a leaderless movement.
Yeah.
And all of that happens in a snap.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then, things get quiet.
Yeah.
Your abduction story happens.
Yeah.
We are all out there. We are just like, we want our person
Right.
back.
Just return this guy
And
to
that
us.
photo is doing rounds again. So many photos of you have moved masses.
Yeah.
We've had so many guttural reactions to photos
of my this is crazy. I've never thought about it that way.
and the media and the movement kind of quiets down, owing to again the government doing what the government does, as it was legitimately threatened by this movement and this uprising.
Yeah.
A few months pass, and then the next iconic photo of you starts doing rounds.
Right.
And it's you and Baba.
Yeah.
And people have such vicious reactions to it. And you should stop taking pictures. Maybe to tapumzi.
You know.
Why are you taking photos? And because your photos cause a lot of chaos.
Occupy cameras.
You know?
And you do. That's super crazy because as a person who does not take photos of myself on my phone, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you take this photo and you make this political move, essentially.
Yeah.
And you dive deep into that world.
Yeah.
And now you're really deep into
Right.
that
I really
world.
am, man. Yeah.
And this is me just, skimming through. But I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
The question, finally.
Yeah.
Me coming to the question.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things about this is like people have felt, especially Gen Zs like yourself, that they've called you Saliti.
Yeah.
That you really did change your stance from June 25th all the way to who you are now. Like you're like a very different person. Your political views have really, really changed, right? And it is a reasonable ask to be made of you as a man to stand and say, okay, what has happened?
Yeah.
How did you get here?
Yeah. Man, I feel like that's it's an interesting question, and I think we have to make it clear that, again, I don't necessarily see eye to eye politically. And that's the reason why I really like having conversations with Aggies, because there's room for humanity. And when you were questioning, I just felt like you were speaking as a human being.
Yeah.
Like there were no defenses. And I don't say this because of the nature of your question. I say this because when we are in the heat of political discussions, you call him everything but Baba.
No, I call him Baba.
You do, but like
And
it's very rarely. But when we are usually like when we're shooting and Sijui 3 points in, they're like, no, shut up.
Just keep quiet. Why are you shouting?
Keep quiet already.
Jagero did call him my grandfather.
Yes, he says your uncle.
Like, my uncle, my grandfather. It's okay. It's okay. We are related. No, Baba is also.
That's super crazy because part of how we think of politics, generally, it feels as though politics is the thing that happens after every election cycle.
Yeah.
And you and I come from the school of thought that the personal is political, that every day is political. Yeah. Our daily lives, our interactions with each other are very heavily influenced by politics.
Yes.
But then when the connection that people usually feel like it begs, we feel like it's in tandem that now the thing that now we understand the personal is political, the next step is it has to be by the politicians. But there's a whole nexus that we usually forget that exists in our interaction, our discussions about feminism, our views about religion, our views about capitalism, our views about labor, our views about care, and those kinds of things. So the more I've sat with this question, the more I've understood that I've moved away from a point of defensiveness, not necessarily moved away, I'm moving away from a point of a reaction to a point of responding. Because I see how this would have been, it is a shocking shift. It is like, quite literally, it's a shocking shift from saying one thing and then going to the other extreme. And especially to people who've not known me for long, I feel like that would, of course it's jarring, and a lot of the people, and I don't know if, yes, I was sharing this with you, that my goal for the year 2024, I was saying I would want to invest more in my TikTok account so that it grows to 100,000 followers. I think I was at 20,000 at that time. And how politics used to be organized in that space is there was room for being wrong. There was room for getting certain questions absolutely wrong. And a good example I would say is I had a whole red pill phase where there was, all the Andrews, your Andrew Tate, your Andrew Kibes.
You had swallowed
those were my guys. And then I went through some breakup, and then Jacob Elliott comes up with this Unplugged book, and I start getting exposed to the red pill philosophy. And then now you see this whole thing and you're like, oh man, it fits. It fits the narrative that I want that's out of life right now. And then somewhere along the line, I started arguing with feminists online. And then I stumbled upon feminist literature. Every once in a while when you put your guards down, you're like, okay, let me check. Let me read this bell hooks lady, see what she's about. The first time I actually started reading bell hooks was not because I wanted to know. It's because I wanted to rebuttal. To disparage and then tell them, listen, you keep on saying this, but she said that and she said that. And that's why she's a very polarizing figure in the feminist space. She is the easiest entry, but she's also very easily misinterpreted. Yes, we use her as meant to satisfy whatever it is that we think. And so coming from that area of politics, and this is, let's say, let's not go too far. Let's go to 2024. A very interesting debate comes up online, man versus bear. And women world over were saying
bear.
They would rather choose the bear.
Every time.
And I was like, what do you mean? And I did like a whole video saying that this is the problem with modern day feminism and choosing the bear and whatnot. I said, you should choose the man. And I went down that I'm a good guy.
Choose me.
Yes, like that. That's the thing. I was like, but I don't. But I've done the work and I've done the reading and I've done the thing within the spaces. But and so how that played out, and the reason why this is a very long-winded answer to your question, because I will want to tie it. It's just it's months before June, and this I was sharing in January, making that resolution that I want to grow this space, my social media page, to the place where politics is discussed and lived and is used to edify people. And so that man versus bear thing, I get it so wrong. And I think I doubled down once. And people would...
You're like, Wamama shida yenu
Ni
ni
nini?
nini?
What do you want?
Yeah.
I'm out here trying to figure out. I'm out here trying to, because I remember I doubled down and said we need to find that point of cooperation.
Yeah.
We need to find ways of working with each other. We're 50-50.
Yeah.
We need to find ways of coexisting and whatever. And I did an apology, and people said, this is what is wrong with your apology. And I remember I was at night, I'm looking, I want to cry. I'm like, they're still stitching. They've brought out the big guns. And you see the big guns in feminism. If you find a lesbian who's well-read, who's done that decentering men thing, those are the big guns in feminism. Because like they don't want anything. They do not care about the male gaze, and they are happy.
Yeah.
Even the OGs have started, I've gotten it wrong. Yeah. So I went and read. And there was something very little that I was missing, where I felt like I was centering the conversation around myself.
Yes.
And the moment I removed myself, I don't know how that clicked.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of conversations, and then suddenly it clicked. But how correction used to work, because then I also ended up removing the videos, saying that, okay, I could sustain this video while I see and I've done the learning.
Yeah.
Not everyone who comes along this video might think that this is okay.
Yeah.
And with that, with the series, because it was not that gentle parenting, these ladies were cooking me a good one, man, on socials.
That's a good analogy. They were not like, oh, Kababa,
no.
So let me hold your hand as I say this.
No, that's not what it was.
They took you and threw you
They
in
were
the,
like, listen, here, you little shit. This is how it's supposed to be.
Oh, my God.
But what they did is they did not withhold information.
Yes.
What they did is, we will not hold your hand while saying this, but we will also not say.
Yeah.
We will say this is what you're missing.
Yeah.
And it was so crazy. After I saw what that was, I remember right about the time there was also a femicide problem in the country, and there were very specific cases of women getting killed, and there was a protest that was coming up that I in my head I was just like, man, I was not paying too much attention. But after I saw this, I remember making videos and saying, guys, there's this thing which is happening. The ladies have organized a march. If we truly are the men that we claim to be, we always saying, now if you have a sister or whatever, let's go then and march with whoever, but let's go.
Yeah. And
then as the man was saying, if kikula pizza yangu alafu I will just...
That video.
Yeah. That was still...
Chill
that was Jivanji.
Down my spine.
That was Jivanji. Because and the reason I'm even bringing this whole story is Jivanji then becomes a very pivotal stage in my life. In campus, it's a place I was afraid of going to. Because I was afraid of going to Jivanji in campus because I thought Ikona, the degenerates...
Where did you go to school?
Took.
Oh, yeah. So
Took is the other side of town.
So then you need to walk.
Yes. Maybe your N heads would find Jivanji to be palatable because they would have to go through the garden.
Yeah.
But to me, I just thought this is a place which has... it kind of represented the places where dreams went to die. So you've graduated from school and then you cannot find a job, especially lawyers. You go to rot at Jivanji. You're struggling with whatever, you go to smoke at Jivanji. There's a public toilet at Jivanji. It's where the street urchins are accepted. That's Jivanji. It moved from a place where I used to be afraid of to a place which angered me when I saw a man saying to women who had gone to try and mobilize people for the march, saying that ukikula pizza yangu na ukose sijui kukuja sisi tutakuua tu. To this radical place, but in my mind, a place which I despised. Then during the femicide march, it's the first time I stepped and sat at Jivanji. So we sat there. That was my beginning with Jivanji, and this is March. Then there's April, there's May, then June. It's just a 2-month space. Now I've understood this, and at the time, I'm hoping that this is what my politic is going to be around. Prior to that, you do not find me doing anything with regards to local or national politics. I was just within student politics. And then the movement comes June. There's waves that happen in June. Of course, I was dragged for that point. I was called a simp and those kinds of things.
For going to the march?
Yes, for going to the march, for even making a video about the march. I was dragged on NGC and people were showing me I was a simp, is an ugly nigger, whatever, all those kinds of things. But then we sat at Jivanji after the march. That march is the thing that told me there's something that's going to happen in Kenya. I don't know what it is. Because that was bigger than...
That was big. I was at that march.
That was bigger than it was bigger than 25th.
We were walking around and we were singing and chanting.
Yes.
And I just remember being filled by such a spirit of revolt.
Yes.
It was just already boiling at that time.
Yeah. For me, it wasn't even, I didn't even see it as a revolt.
It was.
At the time, because I was scared of going to that march.
Why you?
I was. Because remember, I've been getting shit wrong.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been getting stuff wrong on social media. Mm-hmm. Occasionally, I'll have 10 decent takes, and then the 11th is just absolutely horrible. And so, like, there was a grooming. There was this thing for, okay, this person kind of gets it wrong, but this is a person that we're willing to walk with. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then when I got Man vs. Bear wrong the week of the march.
Oh, so you were like, can I really?
These guys are going to jump me when I show up in the street. And I remember because people were talking about walk buddies and whatnot. And part of the people who had been organizing, as a babe I had met on Bumble or something. And it was crazy. That's a whole story.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's a complicated march because the people who are at the very top, privately we have this really, really amazing, really steamy relationship, but then publicly I'm getting this wrong and therefore this cannot continue as a matter of politics. But I also have friends who needed walk buddies. Yeah. So I donated myself as a walk buddy. I said, at the very least I can do is I'll be a walk buddy. Yeah. And I got to town and I was given a drum. Nilipiga yo ngoma when we were singing. But let's go back to Jivanji and then we bring it back into, we tie it into this politics. You remember how glorious the march was?
Yes.
And that march accessed everywhere. The women occupied everywhere because we worked from Freedom Corner and came all the way down to Parliament, went all the way down to Vigilant House at the police and did the thing, sat in front of the office of the president at Harambee Annex, and then went all the way into town. Like, the women touched, it was almost as though that was a foreshadow, it was a prophecy of the 25th. That's because people touched everything that mattered. Yeah. And they chanted down and said, your days are numbered. Yeah. And we sat at Jivanji Gardens and after the whole march, and I was sitting down with these people, and of course it's still challenging, and I'm saying, I've showed up in a suit, and I'm sitting on the grass. I'm like, there's these things I miss, and could you care to show me this blind side that I'm not seeing? And of course it's shown, but I remember saying, the state does not take this seriously. The state thinks this is a joke. Yeah. Because if you realize, the police were not deployed as much. No. And even the ones who were there only had batons. Yeah. So I was like, if this is meant to, what this tells me is that the establishment does not necessarily care.
They don't think this is serious.
It doesn't give much mind to the voices of women.
It's like, okay.
Yes, or like,
wacheni wa mama
watembe waimbe wamalize warudi nyumbani wapike. So we sat down and I shared this with a couple of friends and they were like, oh yeah, but we kept on saying, but something has happened today. Do we know what it would lead to? And we didn't. And after all that, there's a guy who came and exposed himself to a group of babes who were seated right behind us. And I was like, we've marched for a whole day. And this guy dares come and expose himself. He just came and pulled out his schlong and just waved it in front of the babes. I was like, but this is what we were marching against. Yeah. Yeah. I remember being in a fit of rage and like just charging, but then we are also non-violent and whatnot. Yeah. And so that was Jivanji. Then there's a 2-month space. And then the next time I find myself at Jivanji is when I'm trying to tell people, this is how the state is going to fall. I was giving them a roadmap to the new republic. Yeah. And I give them a whole outline. Of course, I was telling them Ruto must go. And we did a whole thing. And I remember the most popular moment at Jivanji, I'm standing on a stone and everyone is trying to convince this is why Ruto has to go. And then by the time I'm coming onto that stone, I'm totally disillusioned, disheveled. And then I get this really glorious picture. because everyone kept on asking us what next, and we couldn't answer it. And I say, this is what's going to happen in the new republic, and we are going to have, the state is going to fall. This was 7th August 2024, and we will have an interim caretaker government, and the people who will serve in this caretaker government will not serve in the government of the new republic, and all that. And then I see my Jivanji conversation changing, because then I come into Jivanji 2 months later, which is very curious. Actually, quite literally 2 months later, August, September, October, because March, April, May, June, July, August, and then 2 months after August, I come back as a person who's now a Raila guy. And those changes sort of, if you're not careful, they kind of, as you know, it's soul sacking. Because as an individual, when you sit down, it just feels like we're just going, we're moving forward. This is what we have to do. This is all that that needs to happen. But then it's it's a series of rapid changes that are happening to the personal that are not happening. They're not being translated outwards. Because remember, at the beginning of the year, I used to build within communities, and I would constantly be in check. And I think at some point maybe I was in check, but I was too blinded by the noise to listen, to sift through. Again, it becomes difficult to sift through, because by the time you're finding one constructive feedback, you've sifted through 100 insults, kind of sucks your soul. And I'm like, okay, by the time I'm seeing this, I'm like, ugh, whatever. So the pivot happens. I would want to say previously that it happens out of lack of choice, but then sitting with you and having this conversation, I kind of see how there's a choosing that is there's a choice that is sort of involved here, and there's it's just a lack of vigilance.
So what happens?
Yeah.
What is the choice? So this is between June.
Yeah, now we're talking post
October.
Yes.
So these 3-4 months.
Yeah.
What happens?
I think I become awake to the fact that there's no ideal world, which I also think is a cop-out when I say it that way.
Cynicism caught you.
Yes. But also just the reality of seeing that a lot of these people, we're saying that we're running initiatives of no to drugs, but then once we have a successful day, we go and get drunk and smoke ourselves out. But during the day, we were just saying, oh, to watch a madrina to start crime. Like, we're telling the youth who cannot nini for themselves. There's a lot of grant writing. There's a lot of what in the cartoons when is a lot.
There's a lot of stuff. On.
Yeah. And I think about it now, that should not have been reason to change. Yeah, I think this is maybe shooting myself in the foot.
Let me ask you, did you feel like the goal of the new republic and the dream of the new republic was too far off? That why would you try to meet that? Like, did you feel like that was
the people?
What informed that inner, like that slight myth of the spirit that you had started with? What?
The people we wanted to take into the new republic were not interested in the new republic.
Oh.
Yeah. Because remember,
Who
again,
were these people? Sorry.
When I was on a stone at Jivanji, there was a whole crowd that they didn't buy the story of the new republic. They only bought they thought I was eloquent. Yeah, they thought I'm promising as a politician.
Yeah.
And I was like, at some point you have to trust the people to be their own liberators.
Yeah.
And I did not have the luxury to meet as many people. And therefore, when I speak about Kenya, and I have to be honest, this is my sample size. Yes. Yeah. It is a mass around Jivanji Gardens. And if they think that the Republic is not worth it, then I would go home and think it is not worth it.
Yeah.
While shutting out all these voices that are actually good voices for good. There are a lot of people who actually believe in the need for a new republic. And so with that change, so I still went for the protest on August 8th. That was almost deadly. And then with the whole impeachment, I think there was, again, with the fatigue of protests and whatnot. But then I bought that story I experienced it and bought it. Yeah. The story for Kwa Ground Vitu Ni Different. Yeah, because ukienda kwa ground, you find the people who actually are playing within this system. Yeah. And then if you say you're trying to cause political change, then we believe you're a politician. Yeah. Then we judge you by our rules. Yes. So I found myself in the political arena of the country. And the change, then, I think the most painful change is having to sit and face people and tell them that these are people who I thought were imaginary, but then you cannot claim them to be imaginary if you're consistently getting feedback and you're telling them that, no, this change will be found here. Mm-hmm. So it was the disconnect of, on my phone, I can see the people, but then I never meet the people on the streets. Mm-hmm. And this is not, normally, I usually say this with a thing to castigate. It's me telling you that this is the cognitive dissonance that I experienced. I'm not saying that it's bad.
So it's like there were so many people online that shared your point of view and your political belief that we can make change and we can. But then when you started moving into those political spaces, you found a totally different group of people who also just had different values.
Absolutely.
And just did not think.
And you would find that some of them were like, they spoke online and they shared those sentiments.
Oh, some of them were the same people.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So I met like some of the most, let me tell you, I joined ODM and I met people who are so militant on the streets, and I would have sworn you're a communist.
And now you're here.
And I'm like, you're welcoming me to the, how? Yeah. Or you would find the people who were advocating for change on social media said that they are not interested in local politics. Mm-hmm. That becomes difficult because for us to bring sustainable change, we have to be able to administer state. Mm. And it wears down on a solitary mind that's untrained for it. Because again, I was also a newbie.
You were not prepared.
Yes, I was a newbie in the sense that there are people who've been doing activism for 10 years. Yeah. So they understand that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Yes. So I would sit down, and I remember sitting down with an artist and he was trying to explain this to me. And I was like, no, it pains me. And I hate that now I can sit on the same table as you who's been doing this for 10, 15 years. Yeah. It is unfair to me.
Because you're not ready.
It is unfair that I have to face the people and tell them this is the direction that we have to go, or this is the direction I have to take. I don't have the muscle. Yeah. I've not prepared for it. Yeah. And I'm like, this is a short course. And for them, sometimes we like to throw shade on activists, but they sort of have seen this thing happen for a while, that they know there are moments, and then there are moments that are going to pull back. And so they've learned the staying power.
You work in
at a peak.
You went full throttle.
That peak disorients you. Yeah. And therefore...
And you were, I think it's important to say, at that point, you're 27 now.
Yes.
And last year you were 26. Just having grown up. You've just finished growing up.
I'm just a 2-year-old adult.
You barely finished growing up.
Yes, my frontal lobe is just...
enter full throttle. Yes. Going in rings with people that have been in this thing for a long time, and people that have been doing this for a long time, more experienced people. Yeah. What do you feel like that did to you when you saw so there's several points of dissonance that you're talking about. So there's the people that on ground are like completely different from who they are online. Yeah. There's the reality that a lot of us end up being online activists, but then on the ground it's a whole different world. Yeah. There's the I am crashing and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now, but people are somehow hoping that I have something to tell them after my big speech about the New Republic. Yes. So what do you think all of these worlds that you're trying to juggle at this point in time, what does that do to your psyche and to your mind?
That's the thing. And I think even the reason why we're having this episode is so that because we do not document the journey, how it happens. We just suddenly find people have switched and we don't see the human side of it. So we're hoping that there's a young person who's going to see and hopefully not make the same mistakes that I have. When you're thrust into a national conversation, into a life-changing conversation for people, because again, this is life or death, but two, you're coming out of obscurity into the nation is somehow looking at you for direction. And there's someone who told me a thing I never understood. You'd hear me say that, but I was not your leader. Like, quite in my heart of hearts, I never thought of myself as a leader. I thought of myself as one of the contributors. Like, I would see the way this person does the thing on the street. I'm like, I'm going to do it on telly as good as that person does it on the street, as good as this other person does, as good as the photographers outdid themselves.
They did a great job.
So I was like, I want to be as good as the photographers. That's what I was doing. And of course, that then was perceived as because you're communicating, even though it's not express, you're communicating dreams of people that have had a yearning.
You're helping us put towards the things that
we've been feeling. Yes.
Which is the job of the artist.
Man.
Because at heart, I think when I look at you, you're an artist. You're an artist, like actually an artist. You can create and make music.
Right.
But also you have a way of putting into words, and at least in that time, that's the role that you took up.
Right.
It's like you were able to articulate some of the deepest ills that we were facing and the deepest pains we were feeling, and not leave it there. You were able to also extend it to like, but this is also what's possible, guys. Like we don't just have to live like this is the ultimate reality. And I think that was the thing. That was the thing. That's why everyone was like, tell us.
Right. I think I'm struggling with vulnerability in this conversation because where I find myself politically, vulnerability does not help. Honesty is not a currency. If anything, if we have an honest conversation, it's deflating from whatever forward motion I've made. But I think it's necessary. I'm going to have it because if anything, even you have put your guards down. You're not happy to just
Today I'm not fighting.
Yes, that's what I say. We're not fighting. This is a boring episode.
It's all right.
But
don't sleep. Don't sleep. But
we promise you we'll give you a fight soon. I think I've spoken about a group of people that I've betrayed before when I was being reactive. But now that I look at it from a human perspective, I volunteered for a role that people said they were going to guard jealously because they've seen what appointing people to that role does. They've seen what volunteers do with that role. And I volunteered and weathered the test of time and sort of won public trust of quite a couple of people. Even if I say that the people who are on the internet, they still are people. And there's a group that, as you've said, believed that I said the things that they felt. I found a way to string words, to arrange words in such a way that would convey their feelings. And to those people, I represented hope. Now, those are the people who I actually regret. You know, there's this other group that I talk about on television that I say, these ones I don't regret one bit.
Which ones?
There's a time I was invited to the bench and I said the people I betrayed are the tribalists, are the people who are perpetual grant writers, people who use, commercial activists. Those ones, I would sell those ones out again, even better. This time, by the way, I would say their names. But then there's that group of people who stop me in supermarkets, 60-year-old women who tell me we've been praying for you and we keep praying for you, don't lose your soul. And you represent a lot. Don't mingle with those politicians. We've seen that direction you've taken. Those ones get to me. Like when I meet that old man, that lady struggling to hold herself in a weird angle and say that, but I'm praying for you, I know it's gonna be. Listen, I have to face the fact that there is that group as well. I can't just lump everyone and say that's. So a part of me struggles with that disappointment. And if you're living a life where you think of yourself as a disappointment, because I deferred to the arts, and the arts have been looked down upon for far too long in this country. I was trying to bring back dignity. My suits were specifically actually for the arts. I said, I'm going to the stage, and the stage is a workplace. So in my stage, you come here in a suit so that you're not given food, leftover food that's meant for staff. You're not given ugali cabbage in an establishment that has an elaborate menu. We started doing activism and saying artists must eat from the menu.
Yes.
You can cut it from what you're paying us. There's that group of people that I still do not know how to handle. So therefore, I will be combative. I will be. I'll deflect to the smaller group.
Yeah.
So that messes you up because you've been dealing with people who are human enough, people who are willing to listen, and then suddenly they're not willing, or you do not know where to find them anymore, because there are also people who preserve their sacred spaces, and they will move away from whatever that is. So now you're left in the jungle. Knowing what I know now, I would have. I would not. Again, I was ignorant. I didn't know that's how, because I involved myself in local politics. There's a way local politics works, and I would have been more vocal about that intention. But at the time, I did not have the clarity that I wanted to involve myself in local politics, because I would have articulated it on the national stage, the stage which I was communicating the hopes and dreams and fears and aspirations of the people. I would have started that conversation there, because it feels as though when I moved into the ODM, it felt sinister, because in the morning you are saying this, and then suddenly you're seen on a stage.
Yeah. Let me interrupt you there.
No worries.
And ask you how you end up in ODM. Is it a call? Do you volunteer yourself? What are the logistics?
ODM was so funny. ODM was survival. Because remember, up until Bomas of Kenya, during Gachagwa's impeachment, up until the morning of Gachagwa's impeachment, I was saying impeach both.
Yeah.
Like
Fagia, what was it? Fagia wote.
Yes. Kufa dereva, kufa makanga. Like my last tweet at maybe 8:30 a.m. is impeach both.
Yeah.
Then at 12:30, a Kenyan sees me saying, Gachagua must go.
What happened?
Like, what happened to Ruto must go? What happened to impeach both? Like, you were saying, like, 5 hours ago, you were saying this, and that.
Yeah.
But Bomas was funny, because Bomas now is my first exposure to local politics. It gave me the lesson that there is no organic crowd in politics. All crowds have been mobilized. Do not go to a crowd that you have not mobilized, or that the mobilizer has not called you for, or that you do not know the mobilizer personally. Because I get to Bomas and I see my age mates, and there should be a hero's welcome. Because if we are here for an impeachment, it probably means we were together on the streets. But I'm like, where's the excitement?
Yeah.
It's mild.
We are not like here. We are not excited.
I would walk into rooms and people would lose it. I've walked into Bomas, I'm in a tuxedo. We're here for serious business. I was in a black tux with a whole feather, pocket square, butterfly boat. The whole spiel. Then I walk in, and Bomas is rather complicated, because I walk in and I realize, politicians are here. How comes Bomas of Kenya is full of young people? I'm so sorry. This is work, but okay. You find politicians in this establishment. Some of the politicians I was exchanging blows with online. And you remember, like, Prime Kasmuel was a menace. I used to insult politicians. I wouldn't spare anyone. But this is a hall. Bomas of Kenya is like, I don't know if it's a 5,000 or 10,000 man hall. It's full. It's full of my age mates. And they're not shouting, Ruto must go. So I'm like, who are these guys? Anyways, Nani was beaten up at Bomas, Morara. And he had just come up. He was doing this accountability thing, exposing government projects and whatnot, and then that thrust him into... So I didn't meet him on the streets. So there's a facet of people that we had met on the streets, but then he emerges from social media. And at the time, I thought, oh, it's a competition. At the time, I was like, no, we don't need to. Let's just drop everything. Could we collaborate? So I was going to Bomas with those motives that the young voices would be forced to move together, because that's the thing which the movement was suffering at that time, is that people were saying we are not united, and people were pulling different directions. And I don't necessarily think so. So remember, Bomas is the next big political event that happens after Nane Nane. With that people are saying flopped. There's a period of silence and people trying to do... There's just heavy police suppression. So this is the first time that the young people, based on what we had seen online, we had agreed that we were going to meet in one place. And I believed that after we are done, we will be forced to sit down and give direction. And say, this is what we're taking. Right or wrong, we would have done this as the young people. So I was hoping this is the time now we establish the structure of the movement. Whether or not I'm going to be a part of it, I don't care, but it's going to happen finally. Then I get in here, and I was also roughed up. So the thing that people did not understand, because they were not there, on your FYP, the videos that are similar are kind of come together. So you see Mariah being beaten, and then you see me speaking. You're like, this guy was there. I'd not gotten there. Because I was like, I got in and some young people started saying, ule mwingine amekuja kutuharibia mkutano. I was like, hey, Z. So I was roughed up kidogo, hid in a kitchen. And then I met this guy who was the MC. He was wearing spectacles, a nice leather jacket. And I'm like, how is he navigating this crowd? The politicians are not mad at him. The crowd is not... Like, when he charges the crowd responds. And so I talked to him, and I thought he was a really cool guy. So I told him, hey, listen, there's a group of people who want to rough me up out there. And I'm afraid, man, I have my phones and I'm afraid. And it's like, I could give them to my bodyguard. I find out that he's a sitting member of parliament. He's a member of parliament for Mathare. He's a wakili. He says, no, it's fine. You could give your phone there. Do you want to go home now, or do you want to stay? I was like, he was like, no, actually, don't go, stay. So I came and sat down. So when I walked to him, I'm like, you guys are the reason why I'm in here. And now suddenly no one wants to beat me anymore. Anyway, so I get in the dais. I start talking to this guy who I think is a bouncer. So I'm just being nice. And he talks to his friend and he says, huyu anasoundika mtu amesoma huyu. Huyu anajoka na watu. In fact, nini. He organizes, gets me a microphone. Who's this guy who I thought was a bouncer? He's the MCA. There's a guy, an amazing guy called Stazo. So we was just making conversations. Then he's the guy who helps me navigate the whole thing. And now he... Even before because guys were giving their opinions and saying, oh, this is why it was unanimous that Gachagua has to go. But I asked this crowd that wanted to beat me, I was like, because I also, when you're addressing a gathering, as a politician, you don't want to flop. You want it to be a success. So you want to say the things that the people want to say. The people are your leader. Therefore, I am your leader. Therefore, I will follow you. That's how politics works. You just say what they want to say. And some young boys, mambo ya Ruto, usituambie hapa, usilete hapa mambo ya Ruto, tumekuja mambo ya Gachagua. Alikuwa amejamba, ameshika moto. And so I was like, Sawa basi. And I remember giving dog whistles and saying, oh, comrades, power. Viva, comrades, viva. Viva, Gen Z, viva. When we were on the streets, those three things have to trigger the most Mephistophelian Ruto must go chant you've ever had. And I was like, there's 12K of you in here. It's about to go down. The MPs are seated there, and you would see them, they're on the edge of the seats when I'm starting to talk. And I'm like, not even one person, man. When I was in the hall, not even one person chanted Ruto must go.
Going.
And I was like, oops, crazy. So I looked at it, and I remember calling out parliamentarians saying, there's a time even a broken clock is right twice in a day. At this point, this clock could be right. Due procedure, However, there are things that you've gotten wrong. You've gotten the finance bill wrong. We need healthcare. We need this new funding model that you're trying to bring in. We need it. Like, can you be right about that as well? And then I sit down. And that now is the disconnect, because the people feel betrayed. And in retrospect, I would feel betrayed as well. Because you get there, you're not even speaking from down there. You're speaking from up at the podium. Remember, how do I get the podium? Because I was respectful to this guy who I thought was a nobody. And Stazo is the king of camouflage. He sits there like he's no one. He's the guy who helped me. He said, ukijana tumonge naye ni mse ako fiti hapa juu. He gave me a mic up there. Who was the guy in charge of the mic? Kajoang. And what was he doing like previously? It's just a crazy story. It's crazy because he was one of the guys who sounded like, Tamwa Nairobi. Yeah. So I get up there. So there's no way you can convince anybody that you are not a part of this. Yeah. And so when I started seeing my phone ringing and I started seeing the insults and the threats splashing in, I was like, oh, my goose is cooked. And remember, there's a series of missteps that I had made that only affirms that you actually were bought, because I'd been seen with Osoro previously, whatever. Seeing it right now, I'm just like, watu kutana and whatever. But with the progression of events then, there was you see how this would look to the public. And at that time, no apology would suffice. And then there's a whole campaign of, let's deplatform this guy, let's unfollow him. And then I get mad and I say, I'm a cocky guy. I hate being cocky because it didn't help. But anyway, I'm like, yeah, it's happening. I insulted the guys on social media and I was like, okay, fine. So this is Friday and I'm like, if I'm going to make blunders, let them happen within one weekend. And I'm like, I'd been staying away from this ODM conversation for so long. I'd been staying away because then ODM is the one that had mobilized Bomas. So I was like, these people actually have a very active constituency, and this constituency is willing to do what it can to protect its interests. This constituency, the people who are in that room are my age mates, the people I was purporting to fight for. And therefore, so they were like, I was afraid of leaving the place. They escorted me. These people wanted to rob me. They escorted me to the car. They said, "Oh, ni kinara, hakuna gari yake isiguzwe," and I left. One man. You can't convince me you are not one with the people. Yeah. Make it make sense that you entered with a suit, you left still prim and proper. Yeah. So then I met Baba on Monday, and then it just erupts.
How did you meet him?
So there's the people who are being sangwenyas.
What's sangwenya?
Sangwenyas are a sangwenya is a, I'm sorry. A sangwenya is an obtainer, is a guy is a middleman who pretends, like, for example, Agi, I want to take you to Jagero. Jagero wants to see you. But you have to give me something. Or
it won't happen.
Yes, or I want to see Jagero, for example. Jagero is our third host.
Yeah. Hi, Jagero.
This is Jagero. Hi, Aggie. Whatever.
Hi,
Aggie. Yeah. So, if I, for example, want to see Jagero, I need to have something of value to take to him. And Aggie, because Aggie is the hot stuff that everyone is trying to nini. If I say, Jagero, I want to see you because Aggie has asked me to see you, he's likely to accept.
He's like, okay, stop.
Yes, say, just come.
Yeah.
So that's what I was a shiny thing that people wanted to use to take to Mzee, and I was like, no, I will go. I'll meet him on my own terms and on his own terms. So after I am seen, because remember my thing had also started plummeting. There was a lot of stories. There was a lot of propaganda. Because once I started being seen, politicians, they just lumped me as a politician. So the whole humanity of it was taken out of it. And this is what is bound to happen to you as a young person if you join politics. Yeah. So that brought me back up because I went into the headlines, and then it was very easy to have a conversation about me. So all the Sangwenyas just failed. And I remember I walked into Capitol on Monday with 2 friends and one of Baba's friends, long-time friends. And that's how I got the appointment. So I bypassed all the Sangwenyas, and now I sat with him, and it was like, this is what he thought about our protests and whatnot. And he actually...
You sat with who?
With
Baba's
Raila.
Wait.
So Friday, impeachment, I'm cancelled the whole weekend. Monday, I'm at Capitol Hill. Yeah. Because remember, this was an ODM type thing, and they said, "Sasa wewe umeshaingia kwa siasa sasa."
Yeah. So in that.
So wewe tunasonga because now again the people have already said now we are done with you.
We don't want your stories.
Pole. You've fumbled too much, so that's how I end up in ODM, because now I sit with Baba and I see his perspective.
So you, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
I have to ask you.
Yeah, go for it.
What the meeting, was this the first time you're meeting him in person?
Yes.
Okay. So you get this appointment.
Yeah.
And you go.
We didn't even go with an appointment. We just went to Capital.
You just showed up.
We showed up at Capital.
And then he was like, "Sawa."
Yeah. His people tried to delay it. They delayed the meeting, but then eventually they just said, "Gen Z ako hapa." Then
Gen Z ako hapa.
Then they came in to even had lunch with us.
Okay, so you meet him.
Yeah.
What is it like to meet him for the first time? For you?
It's confusing because he's portrayed as this very fierce, ferocious guy. But then you meet him and he's so chill. He's like you. He listens and he makes the world feel like it revolves around you. Yeah. When you sit down with him, it's like the world, you're the world.
You're the world.
Tell me more. And
Gen Z, what have you been doing?
And he gives you stories, any story you want. You ask him a question and he tells you, and he's like, then read this. He goes to the shelf and gets you a book, gives you a book. He's like, read this, it will give you perspective on this. And you ask him and you like whatever. Yeah. And he's super nice. And then he's an older figure. So there's a comfort in age. And he talks slowly and he laughs bellyful. And that's the thing. The bug bit me. The bug bit me. It bit me.
The Raila effect.
It bit me in Capital.
Baba alikushika.
And to make matters worse,
yeah,
after our conversation, he invites me to the house the following day for breakfast.
To his house?
To his home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have breakfast in Karen and he's talking to me. He's talking to me about Jaramogi. Like, Jaramogi is not his dad. He's talking to me about Jaramogi.
The figure, the political
the person.
Figure.
Yes. And then he brings in the aspects of him as the father. Not cheesy.
Your mind was blown.
Not cheesy, because now remember, I'm just coming out of a place of lack of acceptance. On my phone, I'm struggling because now there's insults, there's threats, there's now the tribal slurs come out and whatnot. And ideally, the work has been done. The state does not need to neuter me anymore because the people have decided they will not listen to anything that I have to say.
So it's okay.
So it's cheap.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, we didn't even need to hire a hitman. Because remember, there's a time on live television, I got a threat. I was doing an interview at 9 p.m. and said my life is in danger and went to camp at DCI's offices. I called my friends and said, nalala hapa leo, because I was a hit. And they tried moving me in circles, telling me, go to Mudaiga, go to report at Ngong police station, go and report it here. And then I went to Central and whatnot. And I had to hide to Toroka, the country. Anyways, so now it's coming from that point. Now the state does not even kill this guy. He's no longer influential. The people are not going to kubali. And then Baba welcomes me with open arms. And there's a thing which he's seeing that I'm not. And for him, it's just like, yeah, those are the rigors of politics.
Oh, so you're just like weather beaten, and you're just like,
yeah,
how do you do this for 55 years
and
or for 100
years? For him, it's
like,
not even the phone, the Gazzetti. The headline is always insulting him somehow. You can't get to page 4 without catching strays. Like proper strays. He's being called a political harlot. He's being called everything.
Yeah.
And he still has to go on with his work. Like now for him, his tea is countrywide. And so I sat and I was like, I've met a person who can empathize. And then, what do you mean he's also a good, decent guy?
Yeah.
Him, when he goes to, like, for example, if he goes for a funeral, he doesn't do those due to technical appearance thing. He will sit through.
He will go and sit
and no matter how you drag out the program, I'm like, you're human. Shut up. Yeah, I was sold. By the time we were meeting for like the 4th, 5th time,
ODM.
I started going to studio with scarves, man. You can't tell me anything. And you see, that's the other thing which might be a bit confusing for us young people, is that both things can be true.
Yeah.
That you could be a great guy but then people around you could be absolutely horrible, and those people could have contributed to great distress to the people. So there's a person who's disagreeing with ODM because they've had an encounter and they've said that, no, but this person from ODM, these people from ODM, and then my instant rebuttal is, but Raila, and you're like, you're not listening.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm just trying to tell you, listen, I'm trying to tell you this. No, but you see, but Baba said, and because he's become the person, he's a very easy punching bag if you think about it, because he doesn't care for insults.
Yeah.
He doesn't rebuttal. He doesn't pick those unnecessary fights.
I think the thing that always turns me about him is like he always is about his business.
Bruh.
He is about his business. And maybe that's why he survives
What are you
mess.
What are you telling me? I'll give you an example. We go to Kisii, and the people who heckle, they heckle him at the stadium. But he gets through with his speech, and the way it's organized, you can see exactly where those people are.
Yeah.
And so if you're in the stadium, you could just be like, okay, fine. I see, yes, these things were said. But it was not organic, because you can see exactly where it is. Because here, praise. But there, you see it, and then there's some noises, and then they stage a walkout. And then after he's done saying, aya, everyone comes back and sits down. It's crazy. Then we go back to the chopper, and then now we get to Nairobi, and
tell us about the chopper.
We're in the vehicle.
Why were you in the chopper with him? Who typically rides in the chopper with him?
His bodyguard and maybe his trusted people. I cannot say that I don't know where I fit in that matrix.
So what happened? Like, was it like, oh yeah, you're gonna ride with me? Like, how did you end up riding with him?
All of them are usually like, let me think about the first time. The first time I rode with him, we'd gone to see him in Bondo. We were doing something. I think we were going in preparation for a festival or something. There was something that was happening in Homa Bay. And then we sat and we'd come in a different car. And then we ate breakfast. And he just did not have time for us at breakfast. Like his protocol guys just kind of could not, I don't know, there was many people. But the way I saw him, he was not too keen to meet us at breakfast.
Yeah.
And then when he's done with his meetings, he just says, yeah, we're going to Homa Bay. Let's go. And then he took us to lunch, and now he suddenly had time for us. And I'm like, sungesema bigger picture ndio tuache kusikia ni kama tunaenda nikaona to this. Because he takes us to this really elaborate lunch on the lakeside, and like the fish is fished, and like it's this beautiful resort, and he's telling you stories about whatever. And then after that, it's always been one of those, like he springs up a surprise on you. Or sometimes he asks you, what are you doing tomorrow? I'm like, I mean, even if you're doing anything, to me, because I remember my ask of him, I was like, you don't give me money. I'm going through a time, and I need to learn how to navigate this. Because I looked at it and I was like, you get insulted every day? How?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, fine. So he's like, oh yeah, even if I was doing something, I'm like, I'm cool, tomorrow, I'm okay. He says, come to the house. Then you just think you're going to have breakfast. I'm like, okay, I want you to take me somewhere. And then now that's how we end up flying with him.
Yeah.
And so I was telling you about the way, for example, he handles backlash. The man is always so much about his business. Like then he sits and he's on his phone, and then of course all the big media houses are saying nonsense, like they've written things about him or the thing, and I'm like, and he's like, no, okay. Then he just goes and he sees Arsenal is playing, and he's like, yeah, let's go catch an Arsenal game.
Yeah.
And he goes to, so like, he's kind of, that's the thing which I'm trying to learn. Don't come at people from a point of reaction. Try and win them over. But then I had not yet built the infrastructure of winning people over. Yeah. And so that's the thing. So I find myself in this, I've gotten into this really rather problematic space. The political class which we were saying all of it, the swamp has to be drained. Yeah. And now I'm canoodling with them. And I don't know if canoodling is a word, but it sounds like
it is.
Something that could be a word. It sounds like,
Canoodling.
Yeah, it sounds like a word. Just in case there's a pedantic person somewhere watching. I don't know. Yeah, good said. He's even making up words now. That's how deep the lies have gone. But yeah, so I find myself in this space where, because when you sit down with him, he acknowledges that there's a revolutionary moment and he's not trying to stop it or impede it. But he also has people in the legislative house that are also trying to fight for their best interests. And so he's consistently a conflicted man where the strength of his party is both the people, but also the numbers that he wields in parliament. That's the only thing. I mean, how many influential people do we know that the president is not afraid of? Yeah. But this is a man who could say a bill does not pass. And so there's that whole thing. So that's how I move. I move in search of a home, in search of solace that at the time I couldn't find anywhere. And sometimes when, for example, if you hear me defend him vehemently, it's because I've not yet met him as a politician.
Yeah.
I've met him as a human being.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolute. If anyone met him, trust me, yeah, you're just immune because
doubt you.
Like it's
no, I don't doubt you,
right.
Because I've told you this. I believe in like not meeting. So there's the not meeting your heroes.
Yeah.
Because you get to see the man, but also you can idealize the ideas that someone shares in a public persona kind of way.
Right.
And then when you meet them, they are completely the different person.
Yes.
But I think the thing that these politicians have hacked is separating their politics from their lives. So their work is to protect themselves and protect. Raila has to protect Raila.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is not to protect him from like, no, he's not like, they're not, not that kind of protection.
Yes.
You have to keep your soul.
Yes.
You have to keep your humanness.
Right.
Which I guess is you have
it's
to
a conflict,
offer people food.
Right.
You have to listen. And I guess age is also a factor in there. But on the other end of it, like, there is still a lot of things that he has done that are great and have really supported democracy in this country. Yeah. While at the same time, there are so many problematic things as well that Raila is,
Yeah.
Like, so it's like you have to find a way to hold all of this space.
Yes.
It's large and nuanced and messy.
Yes.
And it's just like, it's not a straight line. So it's almost like if I ask you to write for me a short tweet about your family relations.
Yes.
That's not one.
You're like, I can't.
Like, it's like, it's great.
Yes.
But also we have like all these dynamics, but also like you can't tweet about that.
Right.
It's nuanced.
Yes.
There's mess in there, but at the same time, it's also just like, but they're my people,
Yeah.
But I
that's
love
yes. But I
December ninaenda
huko najua ni kubaya.
So one of the things that I see as being very problematic about how we talk about politics and you getting to meet him is almost like it's his humanness encapsulates you, like it just surrounds you.
Yes.
He's a person.
Yes.
And at this same point in time, there's so many things that are just like, hey, Raila.
Right.
Hey.
Do you think, I would want to ask, do you think this is a problem that you face with my types, where you would raise a systemic problem and I want to answer you based on nuance? For example, you would tell me this is wrong with the country, and then I tell you, but Baba is a good guy. Yeah, but you don't know him like that.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing which I would say maybe
how do you get out of?
Yeah, because out of this conversation, that's part of the realizations that I've had.
Yeah.
Is that it's that cannot be the answer to like, for example, if we say collectively this feels like it's a wrong thing, my argument should not be ad hominem. It should not be appealing to, but he's a great guy all around.
Yeah. I think
how do you navigate that? How would you?
How do you navigate that? I think we have to. Part of me is thinking like we have to separate the issue. We have to separate the man from his politics.
Right.
And the fair criticism has to be fair criticism.
Yeah.
Regardless of who the person is.
Right.
Even when we are fighting, I'm not trying to kill you. I'm just saying, hey, can we talk about this? This is not okay.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's always like a matter of like being grown up.
Yes.
I don't have to agree with you on everything. And I don't have to demonize you.
Right.
Except for certain cases, I feel very passionately about the protection of children.
Yes.
The protection of young people.
Yes.
Which is why the protests last year for me is just like the thing, the battle, the war in my heart and in my spirit against Ruto.
Yeah.
You do not kill the young of the country. You just don't.
Let me stop you there, because I would want to know then where is because just as you've said, where would you say your disconnect is with me with regards to the protests last year? Because part of what I'm hearing or kind of seeing is that I've put my heart out to say that I want you to be protected. I want you to be alive. I want this to work for you. And I feel very passionately about this. And I'm willing to fight, insult, deprive of money, deprive of attention the person who wants to bring you any sort of harm. Therefore, the reason why you would post my photos, despite the fact that I'm a total stranger, and then you see me with said person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
There's like disconnects there.
Not like I see the disconnect, but I'm like, could that be it? Could that be a point of where I'm like, how then am I associating with this person who you were defending me from?
Yeah.
Like, the thing you feel very passionately about is that this person must not kill this person.
Must not touch you.
Must not touch this person.
Here's the thing. I think we have very reactionary politics. I think our politics are very hot.
Yes.
Like you touch it kidogo like this, you're already on fire.
Yes.
I have told Jags here, I think you were not there, you were traveling at the time, that when people were having a very heated discussion about the photo, I was just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Anybody
can take a photo with anybody they want.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's not a discussion that is helpful.
Right.
It doesn't touch at the heart of what is actually happening.
Right.
So you can talk about the picture all you want and speculate about how the picture came to be and be like, oh, he must have been bored, he must have been whatever, all of that stuff. But the photo is not the issue.
Right.
If today I saw your photo with the whole works, ikae kama Pentagon, were you alive when Pentagon?
Yes.
You know, you're there in the middle, you're the Najib Balala, and then there's all of the people there.
Yeah.
It's a photo. We have to move the discussion from the photo into ideology and into philosophy. Okay. We cannot also say that if we are of different political conversations or political ideologies, then we cannot sit together. We are not in a playground.
That's true.
We are not saying
my pebbles.
Haukuji kucheza na sisi tena.
Yeah.
Kwa sababu kwenu hamuna TV.
Hamuna TV.
No, guys.
To what I would ask, because I feel like you're giving me I'm having a lot of reflections and it's a lot of shooting myself in the foot, man.
Do it.
But
you'll survive.
You see, maybe the other thing that would make the photo problematic for the population is that they know that these are people who are not easy to access. They know that you don't just take a photo with the president, for example. Yeah. Like there's people who've never met a president.
Yeah.
In their entire life.
A lot more people.
Yeah. Like, but so suddenly I'm trying to convince these people that no, it's not because I was paid or whatever. It's just I
just happened to be there.
Convince me how you just happened to be where a president is.
So that's okay, for me, the reason why I don't want to talk about the photo, I want to talk about, I want to have this conversation with you and be like, how do you end up there?
Right.
Because it's not the photo we are talking about.
Yes.
We are talking about how our politics kills spirits.
Yes.
Sucks souls out of their lives.
Right.
You know, how many young people like you we've seen start out with so much fire and power and just belief for a better Kenya.
Right.
And that dream just kind of dies and fizzles out. Like it's like you get close to the politicians and then it's kind of like you just go there to die.
Yeah.
Or your ideology and your spirit and your brain and your soul goes there to die.
Yeah.
That is the discussion. So if I see the picture and then suddenly you're like the ODM guy and you're like this guy, the spirit is still there.
Yeah.
It's just been bamboozled.
Right.
And it's just been kind of, there's a thing. And you've told us about the Raila magic.
Right.
It's worked on you.
Yeah.
You're right?
Yeah.
However, we have to be honest about the fact that the space that somebody like Raila occupies, somebody like Ruto, the powerful men in our country, that space that they occupy is covered in a lot of young dreams and young believers and philosophers and thinkers and people who have had the potential to take this country where it needs to be, but they just never get there.
Right.
And why do they not get there?
They're soul sucking.
Why do they not get there?
Yeah.
There's something that happens to you.
Yeah.
I come from the school of thought that believes that the most important thing that you have to guard, I guess it's a Christian thing, it's like you have to guard your heart.
Right.
But you have to guard your spirit and your mind and your soul so that it's not corrupted.
Yes.
Do not let the enemy have a foothold, right? And maybe that's what people are seeing. They're just seeing like they've taken a foothold.
Right.
And our revolutionary, our Martin Luther King now is gone.
Yeah.
And we are never going to see a better tomorrow. Maybe it also represents like the death of a dream. And it also represents the death of a belief that we can do better for this country.
Yeah.
Because we do not see that in Raila's eyes. We do not see that in Ruto's eyes. We don't see a desire, like a deep, burning desire to see this country become better.
Yeah.
But perhaps when people were looking on their screens and on their phones and on their TVs at home, they were seeing that. And that's important for people to see,
Right.
Hope should never die.
Yeah.
We should always believe that tomorrow can be better than today.
Right.
But we don't see that. Raila doesn't represent hope. Ruto doesn't represent hope. They represent something different, something. It's maybe the antithesis of that. It's like they represent literally the opposite of that. It's like things will always be the same because you'll always be here. Like we'll never have a Kenya that's different.
Right.
Like I can't even dream for my children that, they want, that I'll be able to make a living. I can't dream because you're here.
Right.
You're the blocker to my dream.
Yeah.
But when we look at you and we're just like, this young man, he can move mountains. He can do things. We see it in his eyes. We see it, right?
Yeah.
So that causes, I guess maybe there's a grief there.
I think
when
so,
we see
yeah.
you now, you're in
cahoots
with these guys that they're not dreaming anymore of a better Kenya. They're just like kind of living in the Kenya that they have made a name in which they have made a name for themselves enough and have insulated themselves enough that the news is just news. It's just like, they're talking about me again. What the heck?
Yeah.
What's new?
Right.
It's different.
Okay.
It's different. So for me, maybe those women who are praying for you and the old people that are just like, maybe that's what they're seeing and that's what they're just like, staki ukue uko.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they don't want to see the photo.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that the photo is the issue, right?
That's crazy because that's what I want to even learn how to navigate, because I think I was telling you I met some teenagers in some restaurant. And they're like, oh, hey, Kasmuel, I'm very proud of you. Yeah. We are very proud of the work that you're doing. You did the protest very well. And I wasn't sure which version they were congratulating. And that's the thing, because death does not even the death of dreams does not necessarily mean that you stop speaking or stop saying the things. It could even be an appointment.
Yeah.
Like death would be a lucrative job within the current system, and maybe that's where the disconnect with many might have come from, where I don't know, maybe people feel like we've lost a set of dreams here. We've lost the
and to the same people.
Yeah, and that's the thing which are saying. Yeah, now I kind of see it. I see what you mean there, and yeah, it's a tough thing, but also I am cognizant of the fact that one, the people are their own liberators, but also two, that we cannot impose ourselves to the people. So therefore, if I am not going to be the one, hopefully this is going to be insightful to the next young person who comes by in the next moment, who shows up and they do not know what to do, they do not have the right surname, and maybe they have the same set of challenges, that they would find this video and hear that, no, this journey has been walked. Because I scoured the internet trying to find people who talk about those struggles, people who, like, there are very few people who are from different schools of thought that sit down and sort of speak about their weaknesses. We always want to showcase our strengths. We always want to showcase this is why I'm where I'm at. Like right now, there's this urge for me to show, no, this is why this was the right move.
Prove something.
It's a thing. Even on this table, in this very moment, in this conversation, I really want to tell you. You see, this is the reason why this was the best move. This is the reason why. But then, that's what everybody has been doing. That's all the videos you're going to find. You'll find people justifying this, why this is the right move. And I think this is a conversation which we could take forever.
It could take forever.
But there's a thing which is very important that you've said about the sucking of souls and the death of dreams, where sometimes the things, because we live in such a broken system, certain things which we think are destinations or rewards represent actual death. Because can you imagine if I, for example, got into the government pipeline, then we would never have the chance to unpack this. We would never have the chance to navigate whatever. When I look at it myself and say, I rejected offers from this government, offers of very senior positions, I could look at that and lament, because I feel like, I could be making so much money now, but if money is the object, then we lose out on all these things that we would possibly gain in life. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's probably the softest conversation you're going to hear Aggie and I have. In the next episode, we're going back to fighting. This is never going to happen again.
We do not make any promises. Thank you.
Thank you, Aggie,
for walking us through that journey. I think, speaking as the elder here,
girls find out they are older than you by 2 months, and suddenly you're a child.
1 hour.
A second like this.
1 hour like this.
Suddenly
but,
a child.
As you figure out what your place and what your life is going to be about, or this season, what it is even going to morph into. I think I have told you this. I hope that you find what's yours to do, because there's something that you're supposed to do. And maybe it's a number of things, but I hope you find what is yours to do.
I hope I find what's mine to do.
And I hope that the people that is for get to actually experience it.
That is so potent.
Yeah.
That's a smart one. That's Aggie for you guys.
That's the end. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Political Headache. We will see you next time. Bye.